Stevie Nicol is joining me as we look back on tonight's action from the Premier League. 1-1 is how it finished between Chelsea hosting Aston Villa. Stevie, I thoroughly enjoyed this contest. Frank Lampard making a number of changes, but probably his side not bouncing back as big as he would have liked Chelsea to bounce back after that kind of shock result against Arsenal at the weekend. How frustrated would he be with this 1-1?
To be honest, I think he did get somewhat of a bounce back. You know, I don't think you could point the finger at any of his players for not having a good attitude and for not going about it in the right manner. Now, performing and going about it in the right manner are two different things. I think also you have to remember that, as you said, 5 or 6 changes from one day to the next, you can't expect, and you're certainly not going to get a free flow inside. I think both halves, they took the time to get some football going. I thought the last 20 minutes of the first half, Chelsea were in total control, and I think the last 20 of the second half, again, they were the team. They were in control, but in between those two spells, yes, they scored, but Frank's got to think somebody upstairs doesn't like him. The goal he loses comes really plain and simply from a numbers game. Christensen gets hurt, goes down. They're one down at the back. Azpilicueta has to come into centre-half position because of that. And then there's a hole at the back and the ball ends up the back of the net. So El Ghazi's on his own. That's just a numbers game. So I think Frank will accept this point. He'll accept the attitude. I'm sure he would prefer that they performed better, but he will also say that it's 2 games in 2 days. So I guess he'll accept it.
As you said, 2 games in 2 days. So what do you put the changes down to? Is it just because the games have been coming thick and fast, or was he kind of trying to send a bit of a strong message to some of the big names that he left on the bench today after the Arsenal performance?
I actually don't think so. When he was talking about the bounce back, I think no question he was more or less thinking, in my opinion, about the upcoming game against City, if indeed that goes ahead, because he said before this game that his intention was always to make 5 or 6 changes because of there's no rest time in between the games. So I think he's probably looking more at the next game as far as a bounce back, because this was always going to be a tough game. And by the way, unless anybody's forgotten, Aston Villa are above Chelsea in the league table. So, this was no gimme. This was always going to be a tough game. So I think right now he'll accept it. He'll certainly be glad they didn't lose.
I definitely want to get to Villa in a bit, but just sticking with Chelsea for a bit. I know that you have said in the past that Chelsea, got so excited at the start of the season, but they just didn't impress you enough. I guess that's probably the same thing you're saying right now as we move into 2021, Stevie. Some people that did look impressive, obviously, Olivier Giroud, as per usual. Certain things in life are guaranteed, death taxes and a Giroud header. Christian Pulisic had a couple of chances as well. And we've always got to touch on Christian Pulisic. What did you make of both of them today?
Well, as you said, I think Giroud is perfect at what he's doing with Frank and Chelsea right now. He's not going to be able to play every game, and the fact that you play him when he's 100% ready, rested, and chomping at the bit, as we say, then he always seems to end up delivering. That's what he's done this season. As far as Pulisic's concerned, I like Pulisic. He always asks questions of defences. He had 3 or 4 shots. I think he said 4 shots. He did have 1 disallowed. But as I said, he asks defenders questions, and that's great because the one thing he wants to do is run at them. And they know that as well. And I think what it does is it creates space for everybody else. So, listen, things didn't quite come off for him today, but he was certainly involved enough in the game and did what he does, poses questions.
And as for Aston Villa now, and just, of course, thinking of Dean Smith and what he's done with this side, that looks like they are definitely on a mission from, being judged for celebrating surviving last season to now seemingly, taking it to the big boys as well. How much of a threat can they be in the Premier League this season?
Listen, I don't think we're looking at top 4. They could be doing they could do a Wolves over the last couple of years and slip into that Europa League position. But you got to congratulate what they've done at Villa, and particularly Dean Smith. The signings they've made have made them so much better. You know, Watkins up front hasn't scored in a few games, but he is a handful. El Ghazi, he's got him playing again. I mean, this is a team that looked like a Premier League team now. Last season, they looked like a team hanging on like they were. They don't look like that now. They're sitting in the top half of the table. They deserve to be in the top half of the table. And I think that's exactly where they're going to stay.
And finally, just looking back at Chelsea again, as you said, we're heading into a new year 2021. They've also potentially got Manchester City coming up, although we're waiting to see if that match does indeed go ahead after a breakout of coronavirus in that camp. What would Frank Lampard wanting to address going into the new year?
Right now, the one thing he'll be thinking about is consistency. You know, they did go on a tremendous run recently. But then they've fallen off the last 4 games. I think it's 1 win, a draw, and 3 defeats. So I think he'll be looking for a consistency of performance. Which at the end of the day, it's what all coaches want. You know, everybody wants to be at the best all the time. That is not possible. But what you're looking for is to get a consistency at a real high level every time you step on the field. That's what he'll be looking for, because if he can get that, then they'll win games because of the ability they have.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.